What is up, everyone? Welcome to today's News Tonight, episode 18. Because we missed a day because of Thanksgiving, and I spent the whole day convinced we were on episode 19, but that's irrelevant. I am joined, as always, today by my co-founders in Good Vibes Gaming, Ash Paulson and Derek Bittner, and of course, we have a special guest, as you can see, and that is Mattea from twitch.tv/illuMattea. How you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I am really glad you're
Thanks
here.
for being here.
I inadvertently synced my lighting with your wall. Like, I had no idea.
That is really cool.
Like, pink everything, and I was just like, ooh, like, we got some
to match
compliments.
the theme.
Yeah, I had no idea we were also going to veer into Splatoon talk in the pre-show. I had green last night, and someone in the chat was like, ooh, the green looks really nice. And I was like, well, what goes well with green? And I saw my Splatoon controller, and I was like, pink. So let's do pink.
Yeah.
If you missed the pre-show, you can see parts of that by joining us over on patreon.com/gvgaming, where for $5 a month you can join our live audience and see us talk about weird things that would get this video demonetized if it were a YouTube video.
Well, technically they're still monetized on Twitter, not on Twitter, on YouTube in the back end. It's still they're unlisted, so you can watch all the old ones, and they've never been demonetized.
Yeah,
so
if it was a public YouTube video.
Yeah, maybe.
Right. Put that out there. But anyway, we talked about Squid Kids and all kinds of other fun stuff.
Yeah. And Ash, you'll like this. Mattea is also a big Dragon Quest XI fan.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
So
one of my favorite JRPGs of all time, and I wasn't even a Dragon Quest fan before that. Not that I didn't like it, I just hadn't really gotten into it.
It was my first Dragon Quest game, and I fell in love with it. And actually, because of that, I'm playing other games in the series now. I'm currently playing Dragon Quest VIII on the 3DS.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Yeah.
I have not beaten that one. I got to the second continent and stopped for whatever reason the first time I was playing, and I just haven't gotten a chance to go back to it.
I'm a bit over the halfway point, apparently. So I'm enjoying it a lot.
Dragon Quest XI-S is one of those like rare JRPGs where I truly have difficulty choosing my favorite character, because it's like, there's Sylvando, but wait, there's Eric, but wait, there's Veronica, but they're all so good. It's like so hard. Yeah.
I love the whole party so much.
Me too. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I should definitely mention this for those of you who have Game Pass. It's going to Game Pass this Friday, 11S.
Yeah.
Play it.
Right.
And it'll also be on Steam, Epic Games Store, and
PS4,
and physically on Xbox One and PS4. So
yeah, I really have to look at this game. I'm kind of glad that I didn't play through it before Definitive Edition, but now I kind of sort of don't know. So for those of you, the three experts on the panel who are not me, what is the best way to play Definitive Edition?
Like what like what system or?
Yeah, like, because I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that Definitive Edition uses like Switch textures on PS4 or Xbox or one of those, and there's like one truly Definitive Edition with high quality textures and all the stuff the Switch.
I think the closest you'll get that is probably PC, because mod scene.
Oh, so it's all the Switch textures?
Yeah, I could see a modder taking the textures from the original release and just popping them onto 11S, because I think
they have.
They probably have. And I know PC wise, before we got to 11S, a mod redid the music so it'd be better quality.
Yeah. Right. I had the PC version of Vanilla 11, and I have the mod for that installed. So
right, nice.
Is it better than the 11S versions, or is it the same?
I'd say 11S is the better version. So
okay,
just
the one thing you don't. Oh, go ahead, Mattea.
Yeah, just because of all the quality of life improvements to the game and everything else. So
yeah, like the one thing you don't want to do is play the original release, even though it looks a lot nicer. Like on PS4, the music is horrid. Like it is absolutely horrid.
And there's some content that really does flesh out the game in 11S.
Yeah. Definitive Edition is just better across the board. And I think if you can get that sweet spot between the original visuals with a Steam mod and the Definitive Edition content, you're good to go.
Nice.
Yeah, no question about it. And also, I can vouch and say that it looks beautiful on PC. Like, I played the demo for 11S on PC, and it looks really good. So
nice. So
nice.
Just make sure you set aside around 90 hours because it's truly an epic.
That's
it is a true epic.
But it all feels really good. It has those really high moments. Like it got me to tear up 3 separate occasions, and usually RPGs only manage like 1 or 2. This one was like going above and beyond.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I have said this before, and I still feel it several months later. Dragon Quest XI is, I feel, the JRPG I've played that comes closest to Chrono Trigger since Chrono Trigger. It's that good.
God
it is
damn.
that freaking good.
Yeah.
It
does a lot of things. Basically, it does. Think of some of the greatest RPGs out there. It does a lot of things similar to them and just makes them in a melting pot and makes it so good.
That is incredibly high praise. Like putting something on the same pedestal or close to the same pedestal as Chrono Trigger. Like that is for me a life-defining game. So I do need to find the time.
I mean, it's my favorite game of all time, as you know, Steve. So it's not as good as Chrono Trigger. Don't get me wrong, but it comes surprisingly.
Well, I mean,
close.
Chrono Trigger is all like shorter and tightly paced and just good for replays. Right. And Dragon Quest does have that. Like, it's good. It has a great pace to it, but it's also a bit long.
Yeah,
so
that's fair. Yeah. I mean, for some people, that's exactly their jam, though. So
this is definitely a top 10 game for me, and still my favorite game on the Switch. Like, it surpassed Xenoblade 2 for me.
It's like one of my all-time favorite games now. So
this is great. As Ren127 says, if one of your exec producers was in 11S, they'd be Rab Arman X. Very clever.
that is pretty funny. That's a PC mod worth making. So, speaking of highly rated games, you know what it's time for. There is no news today, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into the Game Awards Part 2. We didn't know we were going to do this until about 20 minutes ago.
And we had hope that there might be news, and there's some out there, but nothing like major enough for us to do this for.
I mean, Jeff Keighley's World Premiere-a-thon looms large in the horizon, so we may as well bang out Part 2 of our Game Awards predictions while there's still Game Awards in the horizon.
Exactly. Just so everybody knows, we have been compiling a list of smaller stories to round up, which we're going to do tomorrow. But we figured, as Steve said, let's go ahead and get the Game Awards out today. Part 2.
Yeah. So if you hung out with us yesterday, you know that we made our way from the bottom up, and we're heading all the way up to the last one, which is Game of the Year, while giving our thoughts on all the nominees and what we think will cinch each nomination. And we ended up at mobile games, which obviously we all just know so much about. This is everyone on this panel plays so many mobile games. It's no question. We've played all of these, I'm sure, especially Call of Duty Mobile. That is 100% my shit. So that being said, the nominees for Best Mobile Game are Among Us, Call of Duty Mobile, Genshin Impact, Legends of Runeterra, and Pokemon Cafe Mix. And I'm going to throw this to our guest first. What do you think is going to take it in this category?
Well, I don't think it's any question that Among Us is probably going to win. So,
yeah. I mean, I think we all had the same idea. The thing I think I saw Shad in comments talking about in regards to Among Us is should it count? Like, it blew up this year, but it is technically a 2018 game. So should it count? And I don't know. I don't know how to put it. I don't know how to really classify that.
Yeah, I don't think there's... I think it's so, like, weird how, like, the criteria works for games getting nominated for the Game Awards, because it's, like...
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any, like, clear, I guess, way to tell what works for nominations and what doesn't, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's not as though I feel super strongly about this, but I do kind of take issue with Among Us even being here, just because it's not a 2020 game. Like, I just feel like that's kind of weird. And I would say that about any game, whether I really loved it or not.
You know,
but I just,
Here's where I draw the line, because Rob Arman X makes a point that it's more like games that mattered in 2020, I guess. And that's fair, but they have been very specific about release windows mattering for other awards. So they've been like, oh, Smash can't be nominated in 2018 because it came out in December and you're going to have to wait till next year. You know, like, they've made it very clear that when it comes to certain categories, they really care when a game released. So I don't know if that's... It feels at least inconsistent, like how they're applying the rules. That being said,
Yeah.
I agree that Among Us is probably going to take it. Like it is the only game here besides Genshin Impact that I've even heard of people playing really. And Among Us.
That's unfair. I know Joe Merrick plays Pokemon Cafe Mix.
Well, yeah,
because he's Joe Merrick.
I was going to say he runs the largest Pokemon site on the planet.
Yeah.
So.
I think Charlie Bird hit on it when they said that that the Game Awards really only has one consistent rule, and that's anything qualifies as long as it isn't a Nintendo RPG, which is sadly true.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with Mattea and Steve. It's probably going to be Among Us, though Genshin Impact has a decent chance. But I know, at least among kids, Among Us is definitely the big mobile game, especially because it's free.
Yeah.
I think it'll be Among Us.
Okay, so I think we're going to have a more fun discussion in the next category. But before we do that, you know who does definitely deserve an award? Idiono Ben for upping their pledge from live audience to producer during the show just now.
Wow.
Oh,
Thank you so much for your contribution.
That's awesome. Thank you.
That is great, and welcome to the Producers Club. I am so happy that that you're able to join us up there. So you'll see your name in the credits of tonight's episode. Anyway,
awesome.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you. Every dollar matters, like we always say. So this next one is one that I personally love to talk about, and I think there's games I care a lot about in this category. It is Best Indie. And the nominees for Best Indie are Carrion, Fall Guys, Hades, Spelunky 2, and Spiritfarer. And Derek, I want to throw this one to you first because I know you have strong feelings about a couple of the games on this list.
I mean, I've only played a little bit of Fall Guys, but I've mainly only really played Hades and Spiritfarer. One, I am super happy Spiritfarer got nominated because that game is a pure treat. It is gorgeously animated. It's a weird 2D, not like there's no combat whatsoever, but there's a little bit of platforming, even though you cannot die, and it's all about the little connections you make, and it really is just finding out somebody's life before they die. They're being very obtuse about the way they do it. They never come out and say things, but it's amazingly getting people satisfied with their life before passing on. And it can hit you surprisingly hard. Like, there is a character that's super sweet, love her to death, helping her out. She's always like so kind to you, like a grandmother. And then she starts suffering from, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, Alzheimer's, dementia and whatnot, sort of losing memories, not recognizing you as who you were. And it's like, oh my God. And there's a dedicated hug that you can do for everybody. And it's fun to upgrade your ship and explore new places and get around there. Like, it is a really arresting game that I really do feel should be on here. And I really do think is worth people's attention because, man, some of those final moments where you give that hug and they pass on, it's just like,
yeah.
You've
been raving about this game forever, Derek. I haven't had a chance to check it out myself. And indies in general, I love indie games, and I usually play a bunch more of them on lists like these than I have this year. I guess just due to time. But the only one of these I played is Fall Guys, and I will say I've had an amazing time with Fall Guys just because of the friends I play it with every Monday. But I could not in good conscience say that it's probably the best game on this list because it does have problems. So, I really want to play Hades before the Game Awards, which I'm going to try to do. Spiritfarer I probably won't get to, but you say so many good things about it, Derek, and I really want to check it out.
To be fair, I haven't actually finished Spiritfarer yet. There's a lot of games I covered this year that I never got the chance to finish. I want to go back and really do that.
Yeah.
Man.
I have not played Spiritfarer, but I've been meaning to check it out for a while. Or Hades. I've only played Fall Guys out of all the games on here, and that's really fun. But yeah, like Ash said, it does have a lot of problems. So
yeah. For me, I've played Spiritfarer, and it is like everything Derek said. I agree with 100%. It is an incredibly emotional and incredibly touching game. the dementia thing really hit me hard. I lost my grandma to dementia, and so a lot of the stuff I saw in that like really brought back memories that I didn't want didn't want stirred. So I had to put the controller down and leave the game. I'll come back to it though. It is definitely worthy of returning to. That being said, I don't think it's going to win this category, even though I think it deserves to. I truly think it deserves to.
I'm glad it was at least nominated.
Yeah. Pragmatically, I imagine that this is going to go to Hades. Because, again, it's the one that's in the Game of the Year category. So,
yeah. I have heard really good things about Spelunky 2. I've not played those type of that game before or anything like that, but I know people who did play it and reviewed it. It scored incredibly high. So it is another great indie.
Yeah, I would say that
this really is Hades' category to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Agreed. Okay, so if we don't have anything else, let's go ahead and this is going to be one again. Just we're all experts on all of these games. This is best ongoing game, and the nominees are Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, and No Man's Sky. I know that all of us play all these games every day.
Obviously.
I mean, Fortnite has like the llamas and ninja.
I'm surprised No Man's Sky is still ongoing.
Yeah,
we were talking about this yesterday where people they've really improved No Man's Sky. So I could see I could see that as one of those things. Like I don't know much about Apex Legends or Call of Duty Warzone, but I know Destiny 2 constantly gets support. Fortnite obviously constantly gets support. They just did their whole Marvel crossover with Galactus, and now they have like Mandalorian in there. So there's always something there. And of course, No Man's Sky is just most improved across the board when it comes to a lot of these things, but actually what it'll actually win. I don't know.
I think I'd like to see No Man's Sky win only because they've come such a long way, and I'd just like to see them get recognized for that because it really is incredible how they've turned that ship around and righted it. But with that said, I don't know that it will win, and I really don't know enough about any of these to know what to really predict what will. I guess I'll just go with Fortnite because that's what everybody talks about all the time. Everybody loves Fortnite. I guess, yeah. One thing that is interesting about this category, though, is I just noticed it's interesting how there aren't any fighting games on here because fighting games these days come out in seasons, right? With characters, they're ongoing experiences. Tekken, Soul Calibur, Smash, Street Fighter. So I just find it interesting that apparently fighting games don't count for the best ongoing category.
I guess not because they're considered separate DLC packs. I guess these are more consistent.
Yeah.
Rollouts. Like I could see Killer Instinct when it was more of a thing being on this list because of the way it was handled. But most other fighting games, not really, just because it's mostly DLC.
Right.
These all seem like way more long-term games. And it is weird because fighting games have become almost platforms, right? Look at Smash. We're 2 years on and we're still getting new characters. Same goes for Street Fighter. Same goes for Mortal Kombat. So I agree that it's weird that there's not a fighting game on here, but we've talked about this a bit last night too, that there seems to be kind of this narrow view of what they'll accept for some of these categories. I agree with Ash that I think No Man's Sky really deserves its place here. Insofar as they've the content they've added, I can tell you is better than what I've seen in all these other games. We got like a VR mode, we got multiplayer, we like base building, vehicles. Like in terms of fundamentally changing the actual game that received the content, No Man's Sky takes it. But I mean, Fortnite is like a printing press for cash at this point. Epic went from the guys that make Gears of War to one of the most valued game companies on the planet, if not the most valued game company on the planet, because of Fortnite alone.
It's weird that I can tend to forget that it's the same Epic that made Gears of War.
Yeah,
I know. I
mean,
right?
I guess technically Gearbox, but
yeah. So it's just really weird that Epic was. These are the guys that their claim to fame used to be Infinity Blade on the original iPhone. Like that's just
I had that.
Yeah, when you take it back that far, you're like, wow, these are, now they're just the Fortnite guys. It's kind of like the opposite of what happened with Valve, where they made all these great games and then became the Steam guys. These guys made a bunch of other stuff and then became known for one
it's
game
kind
only.
of... Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. I see Fortnite running away with this, but...
Yeah, I'll just agree with you guys because I got no strong opinion personally.
Yeah,
I do love this next category, though.
Yeah, I hate that I don't know anything about this category, but the next category, as Ash mentioned, is Games for Impact. And I'm just going to read the little message here. It's for a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. And I love that. I just hate that I've only played one of these games. The nominees are If Found, Kentucky Route Zero TV Edition, Spiritfarer, Tell Me Why, and Through the Darkest of Times. And Ash, let's go ahead and just get your opinions right out the gate on this one.
Well, like you, I wish I had played more of these, but these are all on my list of games to eventually play, or at least all of them except for one. I've not heard of Through the Darkest of Times, but I'm sure it deserves to be here. Of these, the one I really want to check out is Tell Me Why. I've heard so many interesting things about it, so many positive things about it, and I've heard its portrayals of its characters are respectful.
It also has a trans protagonist, correct?
Right, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, which is huge.
And not only does it have a trans protagonist, but from what I understand, it's a respectful, positive portrayal of that character, and not rooted in stereotypes or anything like that. So I really want to play Tell Me Why. But I've also, people have told me that I've got to play Kentucky Route Zero, that I just have to play it.
I've heard about
amazing.
that. And I honestly, when I first heard that name, I was like, oh, is that some sort of truck driving simulator?
Same.
Rage. And I still don't know what Kentucky Route Zero is all about, but this one's a little weird because it says TV edition. So this is technically a re-release as far as I can tell. So it's one of those nebulous ones again.
Because I think it was originally a mobile game, if I remember correctly.
I think it was also originally a chapter-based game. I think it was. So this brings,
I think it's 5 chapters, and it brings it all together in one package. But yeah, and of course Spiritfarer is here, which I know from what you said, Derek, deserves to be here. So I think I'm going to predict that Tell Me Why might take it, just because of these games, that to me seems to have made the biggest impact, and it's the one I've heard about the most from other people. And it's the one that I feel has been most visible leading up to the Game Awards. So perhaps not. Maybe it's not actually the best game here, but it's certainly the one that I hear about most often. So I think that might take it. Yeah,
I agree. I haven't played the game myself, but I'm a huge fan of the studio behind it, Don't Nod.
Same,
because they made the Life is Strange games, and I love the Life is Strange games so much. So I have high hopes for Tell Me Why whenever I get around to playing it.
I love Life is Strange. At least the first one. I haven't played 2, but my wife and I devoured the first game. We just love that game.
I enjoyed 2 a lot as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
I need to check them out. I haven't had a chance. I'm very curious what the heck If Found and Through the Darkest of Times is, because If Found, I don't know if that's what it actually looks like in game, but that's a striking art style. And could be kind of cool. Through the Darkest of Times seems a little like one of those wacky games that I guess gets deep. I don't know. It's it's like a papercraft style, I guess. It's quite odd.
Yeah, so I've not played, like I said, most of these. Spiritfarer is the only one, and it definitely had a profound impact on me. I think Tell Me Why, I agree with you guys, is probably going to get the nod here. From Don't Nod gets the nod. Sorry. But
no, don't.
Yeah, I do love the art style of this game. I've been Googling these as we've been talking just to kind of at least have some level of familiarity with them. The con to reviewing every AAA game in a year is that you don't get to play some of these lesser known ones. But I would say that, I love the idea of a game that stars a trans protagonist. I think that, marginalized groups, obviously, we don't have nearly enough representation across the board in games, but I think the trans community very specifically is underrepresented. And so to have a trans protagonist in a game is just cool as hell. And I love the fact that it's not even up for interpretation like it was with Celeste for a while. They eventually out and out just said yes, Celeste is trans, and if you looked close enough, you'd realize it. But there was still enough ambiguity there for the usual types to be like, no, she's not, whereas this is right out there, and just, putting it front and center, which I definitely appreciate. So that, that plus the studio it comes from kind of gives me enough to be confident that they'll run away with it.
Yeah, not only is the character trans, but the voice actor for the character is trans.
See, now that's
awesome.
really
cool. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking up more info about Ff7, and it sounds like it seems like it's more of a visual novel where it's somebody gathering up their memories of December of 1993 in Ireland, and just it seems very, I hate to say this, but emotional. Like, it seems like, wow. It says it's, I don't know. Seems interesting, and it seems like it is a good pick for the Games for Impact category. Yeah. So, personally, I'd like to see Spiritfarer come just because it's one I've played, but that's, bias speaking. Sure. I expect Tell Me Why to win that, just because it is kind of the biggest of these.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, do we have? Are we ready to move on?
Sure. Really quick, Steve, just to point this out to you, I was looking in the back end because I'm not sure what their name is in the back end, but Jesse M in the chat said
that is
okay.
I was just getting ready to call that out.
Awesome.
That is our friend Kitty Kong Facts. So Kitty Kong is indeed a good boy and has upped their pledge to the executive producer level. Thank you so much, Jesse/Kitty/Kong/M.
Thank you.
Dang.
Yeah, we appreciate you so much, and you will be shouted out at the end of tonight's episode. What you should let us know, though, is if we should call you Jesse or Kitty, because I don't know.
Exactly.
Like I said this morning, I'm not sure if you're a god or a monster or both, but we appreciate you all the same.
You know what? I've been the holdout on following that account. I might have to actually follow. Yeah,
I don't think you can't not follow one of our executive producers.
Right.
That's got to be a rule.
I mean, especially when somebody other do it.
Jesse, I can promise you that I will never call you Dixie's baggage. Don't worry, I will never call you that. Oh, that's reserved for Kitty Kong himself.
No, that's Dixie. No, it's Dixie's baggage facts.
Nice.
Yeah, in the words of, you know what? You're the snake impressionist. Kitty Kong is a good boy, though. So if you're not familiar with,
good boy.
There we go. I was going to say, so if you're unaware, one of the amazing things that our now executive producer, Jesse/Kitty, did was when John left Game Explain, he hired David Hayter to tell John that Kitty Kong is a good boy.
So good. It was so good.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's an excellent
it's unreal.
Speaking of, check out this segue. Speaking of performances, our next category is Best Performance. Awarded to an individual for voiceover acting, motion, and or performance capture. And the nominees are Ashley Johnson as Ellie in The Last of Us Part 2, Laura Bailey as Abby in The Last of Us Part 2, Daisuke Tsuji as Jin Sakai in Ghost of Tsushima, Logan Cunningham as Hades in Hades, and I'm going to kill this one, but Nadyi Jeter as Miles Morales in Spider-Man Miles Morales. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in here as the person who's probably played the most of these.
Sure.
I got you covered for the one you didn't play.
Yeah, there we go. So we've at least got the full view. So I can't speak on Hades, but I've heard the voice performances are really, really good. But the one that stands out to me the most is Laura Bailey's rendition of Abby in The Last of Us Part 2. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to venture too far into spoiler territory, or at all, really. So don't worry, I'm not going to spoil The Last of Us Part 2 for those of you that haven't played it yet. But Abby goes through probably one of the best character arcs I've seen in a video game throughout the course of her part of The Last of Us Part 2. And she undergoes fundamental changes. There's kind of a lie that she believes that she challenges herself on and comes around, like does, her entire character changes, and Laura Bailey does such a good job delivering like those introspective moments where Abby is kind of grappling with who she is and who she believes she is. And by the end of the game, Laura is almost playing like an entirely different character that still feels vaguely familiar to the person that we started the game as. And it is just such an incredible, like, it's not, it's not like there's a big emotional moment, but it's just these subtle differences in how she portrays Abby throughout the game that leads to this, like, you don't recognize the character on two ends of the story. So I'd have to give it to her just because it is incredibly good, incredibly subtle acting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, I agree with, I haven't finished The Last of Us Part 2, but I played most of it, and I still got to finish it, but I mean, yeah, everything I've heard of Laura's take as Abby, she's fantastic. Same thing as Ashley Johnson as Ellie, they're both fantastic. And I think this whole lineup is great. I haven't heard Hades, of course, but yeah, I mean, Miles Morales I've heard the voice acting in, and Ghost of Tsushima, and I think this is a great lineup. I feel like Ashley Johnson might just take it by default because she's Ellie. And I hate to say that, because that shouldn't be enough, but she's such an iconic character. She's so beloved, maybe a little less beloved after part 2 from what I've seen people saying on the internet, but she's still super, super loved. And I just feel like she might take this by default. However, the troll in me wants Laura Bailey to win just to piss off that part of the internet that hates Abby for being, Abby. And so I just hope that Laura Bailey wins just because of the people it would make upset. But I think it's going to be Ashley Johnson. And that's not to say she doesn't deserve it.
Well, actually, you go first, Mattea, before I chip in.
I don't really have much to say on this because I haven't played any of the games that have been nominated for this. So, but from what I've heard of Last of Us Part 2, I probably would say it would be either Ashley Johnson or Laura Bailey. So it could be a good chance it would be either one of them. So
yeah, I the only one I've not heard at all for the vocal performance is Daisuke Tsuji as Jin. I know so little about Ghost of Tsushima. I didn't even know the main character's name was Jin. So there you go there. But I as fantasy thinker fan, like, I'd love a VA of color to get this one. So Naji or Daisuke, entirely possible, especially Miles Morales. I'm sure he has a great quips and emotional beats to him if it's anything like the original Spider-Man. That's entirely possible. I could say I've interacted a little bit with Hades through that. He's also Logan Cunningham is also the narrator in Hades. And it is a really good performance, really fun. Has this great disappointed dad energy to it. I'm actually kind of surprised Zagreus wasn't nominated, because it has this, maybe just because it's a cool guy actor or something like that, because every actor has this very natural flow to them in that game. You just kind of fall into the performance with those. It's kind of fun in that way. That said, I've been a follower of Laura Bailey as an actress for a long time. She's one of the first VAs in anime that I started to really recognize, mainly because of my love of Yu Yu Hakusho. Nice. And it's been kind of crazy to see her just elevate in this industry and just get bigger and bigger as time goes on, which is all deserved. She's been amazing since the beginning, and I've not played Last of Us Part 2. I don't know anything about Abby or anything like that, but it is like she is almost like a superstar at this point, especially because I think she's part of that Critical Role as well, which people obviously love. But yeah, I couldn't predict, but my guess would be probably Laura Bailey.
I agree with something Rob Arman X said in the chat here. I think it's slightly unfair to have Last of Us Part 2 be there twice. Both Laura and Ashley are great, though, no hate. And they are. But I do kind of feel like maybe there should have been, another game instead of The Last of Us Part 2 twice. And I'm thinking of, and I know, anime-style voice acting can go both ways for people, but I honestly think that the performances in Final Fantasy VII Remake were pretty great almost across the board.
I agree.
Aerith's voice actress.
Yeah, I think she should have. I think Brianna White should have been on here. Honestly, she was great as Aerith. So
I really think Aerith and Tifa were probably my favorite performances in the game, and I think either one of those should have been up here. So that's a bit of a shame, I have to say. But at the end of the day, it is that anime style voice acting that is kind of, I guess, a taste-based thing. I think it's fine. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But some people kind of turn their nose down at it just by virtue of the fact that it's anime style.
Rob Arman X said earlier that Kaiji Tang should have gotten a nomination for Ichiban, which I've not played of Yakuza, but I know Kaiji Tang's a great actor as well.
Yeah, I've heard him in a lot of different projects, so...
I have difficulties with these because, like, I played all of Ghost of Tsushima, but I played it in Japanese because I was like, well, Gene Sakai speaks Japanese. And so and it's not to malign the performance by the actor, but I was like, this just feels wrong. Like, you know, we're playing a game in ancient Japan and he's speaking English. Not cool. And so I just changed it. And the same goes for Yakuza. I'm playing it and I'm enjoying it, but I'm playing it fully in Japanese just because, again, I'm like, we're in Tokyo. Like, this doesn't make sense especially because there was this gag that they included in the Japanese track that they had to, like, rework for English because it was like if you play the game, there's like a side quest where a foreigner shows up and they're speaking English, and Ichiban is trying his best to communicate with this foreigner in English, and in Japanese that obviously works very well, but in English, when you're playing in English, it's like the gag is really weird, and so like the localizers changed the whole scene around to where it's like they're pretending to speak broken English, and then like Ichiban just like stares into the camera for a minute to like let you know he understands that it's weird.
I've seen other animes do that sort of same sort of thing, and the translation always has difficulty with it. Usually they have them be, you know, French. The usual solution.
Yeah, I appreciate that they put a little extra shine on that. But yeah, it's hard for me to judge those games just because I feel like it kind of doesn't do it justice to the character. The long labored point I'm trying to make is I'd love to see some foreign voice performances be nominated for this type of stuff.
Sure.
Like, we always only see English voice performances in these. It'd be nice to see other languages, and I get that that's...
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, probably harder for the panel of judges, but I have a feeling there are video game experts in non-English speaking countries that could help with that.
Right.
That'd be my guess.
Yeah, maybe just a few. All right, so speaking of performances and sounds, our next category is Best Audio Design.
Oof.
So,
this is a tough one.
This is the Ash Paulson category.
Oh, no, that's the next one. That's
music.
Specifically the next one,
let's just speed run this one. So we have Doom Eternal, Half-Life Alyx, Ghost of Tsushima, Resident Evil 3, and The Last of Us Part 2. And Mattea, do you have thoughts on this? Because I almost don't.
Not really. Again, I haven't played any of the games nominated for this, so I wouldn't know. But maybe I would say Last of Us would probably get the win for this one, honestly.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
I think The Last of Us Part 2 will probably take it. And I have to say, you know, based on what I played of it, which is, you know, most of the game, I would say, it is fantastic. And that's probably what I would vote for. Just because it is, I mean, I play it with headphones and like the 3D audio. I mean, it is really amazing. And the environmental sounds, I did preview Doom Eternal and that had great audio design as well. I was really impressed with that. But I do want to give specific mention to Resident Evil 3. Not that I played it, but I did just get finished playing Resident Evil 2.
Oh, 2 has fantastic design. And if it's anything like 2, holy crap.
Yeah, if 3 is anything like 2 in the audio design category, then I would I just want to vote for Resident Evil 3. That would get my vote because Mr. X in RE2 was one of the most wonderful examples of just genius audio design I've ever experienced in gaming.
Oh yeah, I played with those headphones that you recommended the entirety of Resident Evil 2 with that, and
nice.
Oof, wow, that enhanced it so much.
Good. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything like that in RE3, but if there is, that gets my vote. But I do think failing anything else, it would be The Last of Us Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
I could totally see Doom Eternal being up there because the crunchy sound effects and all that. Half-Life Alyx, I'm sure it has great sound design, especially VR to make you just that much more immersed. But let's be honest, The Last of Us Part 2 is the darling of this show. It's probably going to win.
Yeah.
I think if we're going for the likely winner, then The Last of Us Part 2. I did enjoy the sound design in The Last of Us Part 2. There were just a lot of little details hiding in the audio. Like when you're trudging through mud, you could hear like the sound of your boots hitting the sludge, or you could hear the pitter patter of like the dog's feet that you were unfortunately eventually going to have to kill. Stuff like that. There was a lot of just subtle details hidden in the audio that you would probably miss if you didn't wear headphones. Speaking of headphones, Patty in the chat asks, what kind of headphones you recommend, Ash?
Well, the ones I use are just the official Sony PlayStation Pulse headphones, like the latest, whatever, the Pulse Platinum, I think they're called. Yeah. Not the new PS5 version, of course, that they're going to release soon, but the previous iteration. They're good Bluetooth headphones. They sometimes drop out, but generally I like them a lot.
Yeah, so I enjoy them. The PS5 Pulse headphones are out. I have a pair.
Oh, they are out now. Okay.
Yeah, they're really good. They're very light. They sit on your head really well. I played Sackboy with them because, and I have a video coming out about this, but Sackboy has like these music-inspired levels that are synced to like David Bowie songs or Bruno Mars or stuff like that, which is really cool. And listening to them with headphones is a lot of fun. So, I can back you up on that recommendation. They're very good.
Cool. I've been curious about the PS5 version, so that's good to know.
Let's see. So Ash, you were right. This is definitely the Ash Paulson category.
This is my category.
Best score and music. And I already know where I want to take this, but I have a feeling you and I are going to agree, so I'm going to throw it to you. The nominees are Doom Eternal, Ff7 Remake, Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Last of Us Part 2. Go ahead and take it away, Ash.
I mean, I think these are all deserving games. I haven't played Hades, but I'm sure it deserves to be here. I have heard Ori's music. Nice. And I have heard some of Ori's music, Ori 1 and 2. It's beautiful. Doom Eternal has great music. It's just not my kind of music. I'm not into like metal. It's just not my thing. And Last of Us Part 2, great. But for my money, and I know Steve agrees with me, Ff7 Remake is easily the best soundtrack of the year. And the only thing that comes somewhat close for me is Origami King, and that's not here. So, given that Origami King isn't here, for me, this is easy. And if Ff7 Remake doesn't win this, I'm going to be so salty.
I completely agree. The music in that game is fantastic. So,
I mean, I've said this on previous episodes, but like my single favorite gaming moment of the whole year is the start of the third segment of the Genova Dreamweaver fight, because of the way the music kind of, you hear the Genova theme in the first two parts, but it's kind of passive and it's a little bit almost atmospheric and it's a little disappointing almost. And then the actual fight kicks in and you get that Genova remix you've been waiting for, and it's just, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
Oh, I mean,
yeah.
I feel like it almost gets enhanced even more in hard mode, because hard mode enhances that game in so many ways, because you just get sucked into every aspect of it and it all just gets pumped up. And when you are doing well and hearing that music behind you, it is such a great experience. I love this soundtrack. It is so freaking good. And that's the thing. I can totally believe that these other games are worth nominations. I don't know why we're down to 5 nominations when earlier we had 6, because right. Origami King is great as well. Of these, I've not played, obviously, Doom Eternal, Ori, or Last of Us Part 2, but of these, I'd probably take Last of Us Part 2 off, just because maybe it's a little bit more subtle, and these are all bombastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The music... go ahead.
No, just go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, the music in The Last of Us Part 2 kind of fades into the background. Like, you seldom notice it's there, where Final Fantasy VII makes great use of making you aware of the music when they want to. Like I said last night, when you hear the classic like battle theme for the first time, that like thinking about that still sends chills down my spine. Like, it was just so perfectly implemented. So for me, FF7 better run away with this.
Yeah, there's only one point where the music kind of disappointed me, and that's by omission more than anything else. When the plate falls, I missed my opera music from the president to just disconnect them, because that was such a nice callous moment to just...
That was a really good moment, you're right. Yeah.
Otherwise, that was perfect.
You touched on something there, Steve, that with FF7, it's not just about the music itself, which is phenomenal, but the way it's used and the way that the game makes you aware of it and the way it's directed. And I recently learned, I didn't know this originally, but I recently learned that Yasunori Nishiki was involved in the soundtrack for 7 Remake, and he's the composer of Octopath Traveler. And when I think of other games that stand out in the way they make you aware of the music in the situation that you're in, Octopath Traveler is like near the top of the list. So it's really cool to see that him being involved seemingly resulted in the same thing happening with 7 Remake.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely, man.
What else stood out for you, Mattea? Because I know you played 7 a lot as well.
I love the different variations of Aerith's theme used in the game. Like, it's just like some of the different versions of it like hit you. Depending on the scene. So, like, especially, like, I don't want to say, like, too much without saying any spoilers, but, like, there's this particular moment in, I believe it's chapter 13, I think, that's, like, a flashback to her past, and it's just...
yeah.
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 Also, another one of my favorite things about 7 Remake soundtrack is how well the wall market stuff was realized.
Yeah.
The music or the song that you dance to, that Cloud dances to with Andrea. It's
God.
So
catchy.
It's so catchy.
That was such a fun part.
There is one game I really want to mention quickly here that also, it's probably too recent. I wouldn't say it got snubbed. It's probably just too recent, but I'm really enjoying Age of Calamity soundtrack. It's a really good soundtrack.
Oh, yes.
It's not Origami King level, but it's really good, and I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I've been playing Age of Calamity. I'm almost done with the game, but, like...
Nice.
The soundtrack is really, really great. It's, like, so different from the first Hyrule Warriors game, whereas, like, it was...
First Hyrule Warriors was... Yeah.
It was like Zelda run through a butt rock filter. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so... But I like it because it feels more like a soundtrack for Breath of the Wild. If Breath of the Wild had more of a soundtrack. So.
That's what's cool, is that you hit it on perfectly there. It feels like what Breath of the Wild, if it had a traditional soundtrack, Age of Calamity would have been it. And that's why it's nice to have that kind of, an official take on what a traditional Breath of the Wild game soundtrack would have been. Yeah. And the Rivali mission, oh my god, the Rivali theme.
Oh my god, yes. That's like one of my favorite songs in the game, honestly. It's really good.
So good.
I need y'all to beat the game because I stumbled upon some end game stuff that I really need to talk about now. This is... I
was taking a look at this stuff that I'm making progress, but I did see a thing that, like what you unlock, if it looks like what you get for 100%. And I'm actually kind of really excited for it.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, man.
Did you not see? Did you have not seen? I don't think it's a spoiler to say.
Oh, it's not?
Because it's just, the reward is a costume for Link.
Yep. That's the thing that I'm talking about right now. I mean, there's other things that are way bigger, but yeah, the costume for Link is the number one thing I
wonder
want.
What it is. I mean, I don't know what it is. Interesting.
If you're cool with it, we could tell you.
I mean, yeah. What does chat say?
I don't want the chat
because the thing is, I don't have it.
Yeah,
it pops up.
It's just a little icon that I looked at a little closer. And I'm like, oh, I want that.
Yep, same.
Yeah, no, same.
Yeah, it is.
I'm still getting there. I just unlocked the.
It's a costume that is not present in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
At first I thought it was, but then I took a closer look. I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah. So as far as I know, it's the only costume that you can get in Age of Calamity that you can't get in Breath of the Wild, which makes it deeply interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I recently just started like grinding toward 100% because I was like, oh, I beat the game. I'm just going to do the discussion. It's fine. And then I saw that on the map and I was like, shit. I guess I'm going to keep playing. So let's go ahead and rough segue here, but the next category we have, because we are pushing up on the end of our time, and we only have a few left, so I want to get to the end. Is best art direction, and I want to throw this to you, Mattea, because I'm curious to see out of this field of games what you would choose. I have a feeling I know, even though I've known you for a short time now, but
like I said, well, I've only played Final Fantasy 7 Remake, so I would like to see that get best art direction, but I feel like that would go to Ori.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or
it's a hard one.
Or Hades.
Hades really looks good in motion. I'll say that. Fantastic character designs. Animations are smooth as butter. But you could really say that about Ori as well. And I've only played the first one, but I can only imagine it looks as good, if not better, than the original game. And it, again, just that smooth, fluid motion that you get out of it that make them really great. And it's hard to compare these because you have the realism of Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us versus the obvious artistic influence of Hades and Ori. And then you have some Final Fantasy VII, which is somewhat in the middle, where it's taken that more artistic design and making it a little bit more realistic. And
like
I don't know where I put it, but I think I would discount, like, for the most part, the art direction of, like, the graphics of art direction or graphics that I'm going for here, because, you know, there's some obvious rough spots in Final Fantasy VII. The door, some of the background elements, some wallpaper,
of the transitions from the character models. Animation. The animations are sometimes really stiff for them. So
yeah, it can be a little rough. And I don't know anything about Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima. I assume pretty good, but if you can get a good fluid 2D animated thing, I kind of do find myself gravitating towards that. So I'd probably go with Ori out of this category.
Yeah, I agree with you, Derek. I mean, I think 7 Remake is a stunning looking game, and I just every moment I was playing it, I was just enjoying looking at it. To say nothing of the battles, like all the lighting effects and just the way the battle animations work, and just character animations in general. I love the anime flair that and Square Enix has always been so good at that. It's like anime realism, right? It's like hyper realistic, kind of, really beautiful animations, hyper stylized, and I love that style. And Square Enix has always been at the top of that game. That said, I think I would want to give it to Ori. If it were up to me, just because the Ori games really are just drop dead gorgeous. And anybody who knows me, I love 2D games. I'm a platformer junkie. We don't see games that look like Ori that much anymore. And I think it's the one that stands out most here, even next to 7 Remake.
Interesting. So for me, and maybe this is just the benefit of being ancient, but I personally cannot see another game that I want to get this more than Final Fantasy VII. So
nice.
I was.
I can't blame you.
Yeah,
I won't be disappointed. Like if that wins, I'll be happy. Yeah.
So I was like a young teenager when Final Fantasy VII came out, right? So I remember pouring through promotional materials and art renders and all the kinds of stuff that was just splashed across magazine pages in the mid to late 90s when this game was coming out, right? And when I played the remake, like when I finally got the game, got it home and played it outside of a Square Enix demo booth, I was blown away by how much this game matched my imagination of what this world looked like.
Yeah.
And for me, that is just incredible art direction. Like it's clear they put so much thought into, okay, well, what would Wall Market look like if it was actually a real place? And what would Midgar look like if it really existed in 3 dimensions and not just rendered bitmaps that, Cloud runs through?
Right.
And there was never a point where this game's world diverged from from how I imagined it.
Fair.
Definitely.
Very fair.
Yeah.
Incredible.
No,
I mean, that opening cutscene, where you get to see daily life in Midgar, the suburbs of Midgar.
Yeah.
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 Well, not just that, but when you first step outside of Cloud's apartment and the music track plays and you see Sector 7 in front of you and just, as you said, daily life, but now you're in it. You're Cloud, you're walking through it. You're seeing people go about their daily lives, and this was something that we'd only ever seen a little bit of in Advent Children in a realistic sense. And now we're playing a game that looks way better than Advent Children, and it feels like it transported you into, as you said, Steve, the Midgard that you saw growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, I have to pin my hopes on Final Fantasy VII. There's I can't imagine another game doing that well. So
I think my only criticism of 7 Remake in terms of the visuals is like some of the areas, like the under the plate and the sewers. They're very samey. They're very the sewers. They look so samey for the whole time you're in them. And same thing when you're that dungeon, it's probably a little bit too long when you're going under the plate. And that is a bit, the colors are a bit brown and gray and garish. That's, I mean, you could see it either way, I guess.
I mean, so here's my thing. We mentioned that it kind of straddles the line between realism and artistic flair, right? I mean, how samey are real sewers?
True.
Hey,
that's
a
fair point.
Good point.
They probably
Fair
aren't
point,
totally
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, it needs to win Best Art Direction just on the it could win Best Art Direction just on the fact that they somehow found a way to bring Hell House back.
Yeah, true.
Everybody was wondering if that crazy enemy was going to be in the game, and they made it a frickin' boss.
And that whole, when you're scaling the plate, the way they transformed that sequence when you're climbing the plate from the PS1 version to what it became in Remake, and you see Midgar stretching out below you, and it's the atmosphere it's incredible, the scale of it. It's really
going through the Shinra building and seeing just how big it is and what there is.
The Shinra Museum thing where the whole video display thing. That was awesome. Like, oh man,
I seriously can't wait for the next game so we can see what more of the planet is like. How are they going to handle beyond Midgar?
Yeah.
This is a game that I cannot wait. I will happily pay $60 again to play on PS5.
Totally.
I got the review code. I got it for free. Then I bought the collector's edition. And if there's another collector's edition for PS5, I have no shame in saying I'll buy it again. I will absolutely pick up as many boxes with clouds standing in front of a white background as they will allow me to buy for the rest of my life. All right, so... Oh, go ahead.
Right, sorry, I forgot to mention. This is another, I just wanted to say really quickly, this is another category that I feel Origami King got totally snubbed.
Yeah, agreed.
Origami King is genuinely a beautiful game, and it's the best looking Paper Mario game. It's one of the best looking Switch games.
I would have put...
The environments are truly, like Autumn Mountain by itself. Autumn Mountain and Shogun Studios by themselves make Origami King worthy of being here, I think.
I'm being attacked by a dog. I apologize.
No worries. Okay.
It's the best thing to be attacked by.
As Derek tells us the story of his dog attack, we will move on to best.
I'd probably put Origami King over Ghost of Tsushima. That said, I've not seen too much of Ghost of Tsushima. It's just the one I toss out there.
Oh man, Ghost of Tsushima is gorgeous. Like,
it is a beautiful game. Yeah.
When you're riding across the island through like the tall grass, it gives some strong Breath of the Wild vibes. I really like it. I wouldn't throw it out, but I think it's up against competition that is entirely too strong for it. Speaking of Ghost of Tsushima potentially being outgunned, best narrative. Our nominees are 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, or Aegis Rim. Is it Aegis or Aegis?
I think it's Aegis.
I think,
Why not? Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and The Last of Us Part 2.
You want to talk about a tough category. I don't know anything about Ghost of Tsushima's plot, so I'm just discounting that one right off the bat. Apologies to fans of that game, and I've played a little bit of 13 Sentinels, and I've heard good things.
I've heard really good things about it. Yeah.
Of that plot. I don't know about the rest of the game, but apparently the plot is really well done, and the way it's sort of handled makes it interesting. And I'm not far enough in Hades to really say whether or not it has the best narrative. The way its storytelling is handled is fantastic, though. Like, I've talked to people, people have talked to me, said they've been playing it for 40, 50, 60 hours, and, you're repeating, going through these areas, trying to get further and further. No repeated dialogue whatsoever. And that's impressive for a game like Hades.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not that counts it as best narrative, I don't know.
I certainly have my criticisms of Ff7 Remake story. In general, I actually really enjoyed it a lot, and I enjoyed the ending. I know it was very divisive. I actually really enjoyed the ending, and I like that they didn't just remake 7's story beat for beat, because there's genuine mystery here again. Even after even being a huge fan of the original, we don't know what's going to happen from here on out. We have some idea, but we don't know the full idea, and I love that they took that approach.
There's so many possibilities.
Yeah,
however, though, like, I kind of like how the Oscars have like Oscar bait movies, like where they're kinds of movies that are going to get nominated. I sadly don't think Ff7 Remake is the kind of story that can win this. I think it's too anime for a Western award show. And we've seen the Game Awards have an anti-Japanese bent before. Not maybe necessarily as much as it used to, but it definitely
I don't think Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was nominated for Best Narrative, and that's a...
Like, the Game Awards is always kind of skewed toward Western games, right? So I feel like The Last of Us Part 2 wins this by default, just by virtue of it being The Last of Us Part 2.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. So.
And I'm not saying it doesn't deserve it. I'm just saying that Ff7 Remake, as much as I love it, I just don't think it's the kind of game that can win this category in this show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've only played 3 of the 5 here, so I'm not familiar with 13 Sentinels or with Hades yet. But I have a hard time imagining anything topping The Last of Us Part 2. I absolutely love that game's story. It blew me away. I think it's a once in a generation kind of game. So for me, it's an easy nod to The Last of Us Part 2. I couldn't imagine another game outperforming it. That's all I gotta say about that.
And people are going to be pissed when it wins. I'll say
of course they will.
Let's say
whatever.
They're going to be pissed, and I'm going to just sit back and eat the popcorn and watch it.
All right, so we've got just 2 categories left. The next one up is Best Game Direction, and tell me if these nominees are starting to look and sound a little familiar. Because we've got Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, and The Last of Us Part 2. And apparently this is outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. So Derek, why don't we toss this one to you?
In my opinion, based on this look, I think the top 3, in my opinion, that should be in the running for this is 7 Remake, Hades, and Half-Life Alyx. Last of Us 2, great narrative. I don't know anything about the gameplay, to be fair, but if it's anything like the original, that's not really innovative or creative. It's, just expanding what came before. And I think that's a fair assessment. It can be really fun. But that's about it. Ghost of Tsushima, I mean, it's an open world game with a few ideas that maybe not that, but it's not as like innovative in the same way as Breath of the Wild. Half-Life Alyx, a VR game doing this well and really pushing the VR platform. I think that's innovative. Hades, getting people into the genre that most people don't play and just hooking them with its game design, I think is worth noting. And Final Fantasy VII Remake, because they took a battle system that nobody had hope for and made it freaking incredible. Probably what everybody considers the best part of the game is the battle system. And I don't know who I'd pick between those 3, but personally, I'd go with 7 Remake. But what about you, Mattea, based on what you know of these games?
Yeah, 7 Remake. But Hades definitely seems like I haven't played the game myself, but everyone just loves the gameplay for it, so I could see it winning.
I do want to mention a specific sequence. I haven't played that much of Ghost of Tsushima, but I want to call out a specific sequence in the opening that is one of my favorite moments or sequences of the whole year. And that is the opening credits when the game transitions. I know you know what I'm talking about, Steve, but when the game transitions seamlessly into the opening credits as you're on horseback. And it's just a beautiful moment. And so I do have to really call out Ghost of Tsushima for that. And if the rest of the game is full of moments like that, then I mean that's it. It certainly should be in the running here. You touched on something, Derek, that I completely agree with about The Last of Us Part 2, and that is that the gameplay is great. It is. But if you play The Last of Us Part 1, you know what you're getting. Part 2 is Part 1 with but much bigger, more expansive, intricate environments, much better enemy AI. It's Part 1 scaled up and it's better, but it's not anything new. Really, it's not, it's if you played Part 1, you've just played a scaled down version of Part 2. Generally, there are differences, of course, and the dogs make for incredibly tense gameplay because they're, in my opinion, more dangerous than pretty much any of the other enemies in the game so far because they can track you, and that definitely makes for a new gameplay wrinkle, but it's not anything earth-shatteringly different or mind-blowing, whereas 7 Remake did things that people weren't expecting, did things that I wasn't expecting. And it's full of those kinds of moments, like you said, Steve, where the battle theme kicks in for the first time. It's not just the music, it's the way the music is timed to the camera swivel behind Cloud when the game gives you control over Cloud. Like, at those exact beat-for-beat moments that really feel, just give you adrenaline, make you just full of adrenaline. And so for me, 7 Remake gets my vote for that reason. But I just feel like by default, I think it's going to go to Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you almost 100%, Ash. The Last of Us Part 2 is going to run away with this. It's going to take the award. Yeah. I'm going to disagree with it. I want to call out, because we haven't really given a lot of love to Ghost of Tsushima. It does have excellent direction. There's moments like Ash said, where you just roll into the credits, and you're on horseback, and it's just like this incredibly engaging experience, and it makes you feel like you're playing an old like Akira Kurosawa movie. There's like this moment in the opening where you get your sword back and you're in this dimly lit hut and this guy is like accosting a woman behind you, and Gene like pulls his sword out over his head out of the scabbard and like it glints in the moonlight, and you cut this dude down, and I'm like, I'm playing the most badass game ever. And then there's like
don't they also have like a black and white mode? So
they have a black and white mode called Kurosawa mode. And there's also like when you settle in to like duel another samurai or anyone really, like an invading Mongol or someone, it'll like the camera will go wide, and then you'll see the two of them kind of approach each other, settle in to like get ready to draw their swords, and then like in kanji in between them, you'll see like the name of the duel. It's really cool stuff. So there's a lot of moments like that really kind of drive home that these guys were huge fans of Akira Kurosawa's samurai films. That said, I like that a lot, but I don't think it's the game I want to win this award. I have to agree with Ash that it's Ff7 Remake here. When you play the original Final Fantasy VII, the Midgar section is like, what, 2 hours? Like it's not a lot.
3-4 hours first time playing.
It's an opening segment, and they fleshed it out into an entire game, and it never felt like they were just shoving filler in your face to give
I've heard people complain about padding, and I've played through the game twice, and the only padding I can think of is the diversion before you get to Wall Market. That's the only padding that gets to me, and it's mainly because of the hand puzzles.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. The tractor thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that there was nothing before, like taking such a small section of a game and turning it into an entire game and making it feel like everything fits is a huge achievement. And like Ash said, they play with sound and mechanics and camera placement to just kind of amp you up while you play, and they do it so well that it's really hard to recognize that's what they're doing. I just fully agree. But the game knows like when it never misses a moment. Like when those things happen, it's always at the right time. And I can't think of a game that does any of that stuff better than Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'd like to say something about Half-Life Alyx, but I've barely played it and I haven't touched Hades. So there you go. That's my
Jared Edinger said, you guys liked Leslie? I didn't mind the Leslie bit. Yeah, I got annoying fight chasing that one thing over and over again, but it ended off in a cool fight and got to get more of Don Corneo. So I think the payoff was worth
Leslie
it.
At all.
Yeah, me neither.
I think the only character, like the only side character that I kind of bounced off of was Kyrie, just because she seemed like budget Yuffie.
She's more expanded universe. Like she's from the kids are all right and stuff like that. It's just,
she just made me think about how much I would rather be seeing Yuffie instead. That was really
right.
But yeah,
next game probably.
Next game, exactly.
Oh yeah,
I have to
looking forward to that.
XQ Jonah, who happens to be a childhood friend of mine, by the way. Hi, Jonah.
Oh, nice.
Mentions that Midgar is actually all of Disc 1 in the original FF7, or most of it.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
Disc 1 ends... doesn't it?
It ends with the big thing.
Yeah, as soon after the big thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we can talk about it openly because it's like a 20...
I mean, it's
spoiler, but...
I'd say it's about 15 hours.
If anything, Midgar's only the first 8 or so hours of Disc 1. Most
not
of
even
Disc
that
1 takes place outside of Midgar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even that.
Okay, I had to look this up because I saw people agreeing in the chat. And I'm
no, Midgar is all a small portion. Like it feels like a long time because you're there for so long.
Yeah.
But you go to
at Icicle Inn.
Yeah, you go to Calm. You go across the mountains. You go into Junon. You go across to I forget the beach area, but the beach area you got
Costa del Sol. Yeah,
Costa del Sol. You have Cosmo Canyon. You have the whole
Gold
thing
Saucer.
involving the Temple of the Ancients. As
have,
well. There's a
Corral
lot of
with
stuff
Barrett
beyond
and
in
Dine,
Disc
and
1.
there's a lot in Disc 1 that isn't Midgar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is I feel better now because I just saw the patron. So if you don't know, I have a horrible habit of second guessing myself, and I saw like 3 people say like, "Oh yeah," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it that way, so I'm glad that we cleared that up. My memory is not as bad as I thought.
Midgar just feels longer because you're not in any of those other cities as long as Midgar, which
Yeah, that's true too. No worries. So,
oh man, Jared Edinger says, "Oh my God, Dine! I can't wait for them to do that."
Dine is especially
that's
with the
gonna
new
be so good.
Marlene. It's
With Marlene being that's gonna just drive a stake through the heart when that happens. Oh,
no.
man.
So,
Yeah.
All right, guys, we've got one category left, and it's arguably the most important, the one that'll get printed on the most game boxes in 2021. It is Game of the Year. I feel like Jeff Keighley's going to have his world premiere guy say it unusually properly. Game of the Year. Anyway, our nominees for Game of the Year are Doom Eternal, Ff7 Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and The Last of Us Part 2. I'm going to throw this to you, Mattea. What is your take on who's going to take home Game of the Year?
Who I want to take home Game of the Year? Probably a toss-up between Final Fantasy VII Remake and Animal Crossing New Horizons. So,
Good picks.
Who I think is going to win is Last of Us Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, that's
just because it is Last of Us.
That's a pretty well-reasoned take. How about you, Derek?
I mean, my personal Game of the Year, and that still stands at this point, is Final Fantasy VII Remake. So that's what I would vote for. I have not touched Last of Us Part 2 at all, so I don't know. I know you adore it, Steve.
Yes.
Hades is certainly up there. I think it's deserving of the nomination just from the little bit I've played because it does what it does super well. I don't think Doom Eternal or Ghost of Tsushima really have a chance. I think they're both excellent, of course, but I don't think they stand a chance. I think it's a three-way... Personally, I think it's a three-way race between Final Fantasy, Animal Crossing, and Last of Us, and really it's between Animal Crossing and Last of Us, 2 polar opposite games as much as you can.
Yeah.
Like, what do you go for? Do you go with the phenomenon of 2020 that everybody got into and just convinced people to pick up Switches and buy this game in droves?
Yeah.
Or do you go with the art house game?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about you, Ash?
4 or 5 of these games don't have a chance in hell. I'm tempted to say 5. If I was a betting man, I would put a great deal of money on Last of Us Part 2 winning. Again, simply by virtue of the fact that it's The Last of Us Part 2. My personal Game of the Year is Ff7 Remake. Straight up. It's not even, it's not even close.
Same.
It is my Game of the Year. I would be overjoyed if Ff7 Remake won, but I don't think it can. I don't think any of these games can because they're next to The Last of Us Part 2, and that just is too overpowering, just being that game. And I'm not saying it isn't great, but nothing I've played in Last of Us Part 2 made me feel like Game of the Year material. It's a really great, super polished, incredibly fun game, but it doesn't really do anything that's that new. And you don't have to do something new to be considered Game of the Year. But I feel like I've played a lot of games like Last of Us Part 2, and it's just... I haven't seen anything in it yet that makes me think, oh my God, Game of the Year. Yeah, the story's great, but for me, 7 Remake is the whole package. Now, I haven't played Hades, so I can't comment on that. And I'm personally not an Animal Crossing fan, so I'm not saying it can't be deserving, but I just don't see it. Yeah, it's just not my thing.
It comes to taste at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Doom Eternal as well. Doom 2016 is great, and I love what I previewed of Doom Eternal, but... I guess I'm just not that much into shooters. So for me, I just don't really see that as a Game of the Year for me, personally. But I can't say it doesn't deserve to be here. And Ghost of Tsushima, again, great game, but I feel like I've seen a lot of it done before. in other open world games, like Assassin's Creed, and it's that style of open world game. Ghost of Tsushima just happens to be a lot more beautiful and take place in ancient Japan, which is awesome, and it has gorgeous visuals. But for me, it's Ff7 Remake, but I do think it's going to be Last of Us Part 2.
So yeah, there's a lot of valid opinions being thrown around. Here's how I feel. I feel like I absolutely want The Last of Us Part 2 to win. I actually want it to win.
Oh, yeah?
But that's because it's the game I love the most on that list, which is fine. I know I'm in the minority on this one, but here's kind of where I land on it. I don't think... I want it to win, but I don't think it deserves to win. And the reason I don't think it... First off, awards are unfair. They're always unfair. Let's just put that out there.
Right.
Yeah. They're giving awards inherently is a flawed idea, because ultimately this is the opinion of a small group of judges and not the people buying the games. And I think that in a fair world, in a fair award system, Animal Crossing would win. Because when you talk about games as a medium, on that list, only one game pushed gaming forward, and that's Animal Crossing. How many new people became gamers this year because of Animal Crossing? How many people that had not played video games in years, or maybe at all, started because of Animal Crossing? That, to me, in a fair world, makes that almost a slam dunk for Game of the Year, because so many people came into the fold because of this game. And to me, that's like a huge, huge, huge thing that most games never accomplish, right? Like, do I think as a pre-existing gamer, I love The Last of Us Part 2, and I think that it is this fantastic, beautiful, emotional game that really took me through a lot, but I also recognize that it only sold to people who already owned a PlayStation 4, or, people who were deeply entrenched in gamer culture. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I would love to see a game like Animal Crossing take the award because of the fact that it expanded the pool of people who play games. But ultimately, I accept that the reality is that 5 to 7 people will decide that The Last of Us Part 2 was the better game because they're people like me.
Right.
So... cool. If you ever want me to be a Game Awards judge, though, I'll vote for Animal Crossing.
Yeah, there you go.
They should have just hire GVG in general to just be. We'll be three of the judges next year. I'd
be a terrible judge considering how few games I played.
I just want to say, Steve, you made a really great little speech there. You made a really good point about how Animal Crossing, even if it isn't like my personal game of the year, I'm not a fan of the series really. That's a great point about how it pushed gaming forward more than any other game on this list, and it really kind of makes you think about what even is game of the year, right? Because you said award shows, just by virtue of what they are, aren't necessarily fair, and I mean, game of the year itself is such a subjective thing. What makes a game of the year game of the year? Is it a game that pushes gaming forward more than any other? Is it the best technical performance? I think that varies from person to person. For me, usually it comes down to what game made me feel the most. What game did I feel the most emotional resonance with? What made me just feel really hard? That really came out bad, but you know what I mean. What made me feel the most. Wow. And for me, that was Ff7 Remake.
I don't know if I want to hear about your feelings right now, Ash.
That was one of those. What is it? Modern Family. I can't remember the guy's name. Moments where he says something, and it sounds way better in his head than it does said out loud. But yes, what makes me feel the most is what usually becomes my game of the year, which is why it's FF7. But I can't disagree with anything you said, Steve. Phil Dunphy. There it is. So it's a Phil Dunphy moment. Yeah.
So I do think Z Patty rounds up the Game Awards, now that we're done predicting, as one best possibly can, with just throws Mountain Dew at TV. So with Mountain Dews thrown at TVs and awards discussed, I feel like we've reached the end of tonight's episode. Before we sign off, I want to go ahead and throw it over to our guest, Mattea. Where can we find you?
Well, I'm on Twitch at twitch.tv/illuMattea. That's spelled ILLUMATTEA. And I stream on there quite frequently. I play a lot of Nintendo games, a lot of JRPGs. yeah, so you can catch me on there, and you can find me on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok as illuMattea as well. So if you want to see me make random posts about video games and squeal over fictional characters and whatnot. So
Don't you actually make crafts as well?
Oh yes, I'm also a graphic designer and an illustrator, and I am I don't have it open yet, but I'm working on opening an Etsy very soon. So
nice.
Nice.
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool. So
cool.
yeah, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to meet you, by the way.
It's great to meet you guys, and I'm really happy to be here. So thank you for
Yeah, I would love to have you back anytime.
Yeah, of course. I feel like my horizons are expanding. I'm meeting so many fellow content creators.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're all like introducing each other to our friend groups.
yeah. So this is really great. I'm glad, and like Ash said, feel free to come back on anytime. I still
of course.
think that
I would love to.
there's like this looming threat of an RPG discussion that goes on in nearly every episode now. So we have to do that, and we'd love to have you on when that goes down.
Yeah.
At some point. I may have to bow out being not the biggest RPG guy, but I think it would be an amazing discussion to witness. So
Definitely, yeah.
with that, I'd like to say we covered all the news, but there's no news. So we finally finished predicting all the Game Awards. Remember, if you want to find out if our predictions came true, you can join us next week, Thursday night. TNT will be a special edition where we just stream the Game Awards and talk about them. We'll even probably do a post show. It'll be a much longer TNT than normal because Jeff Keighley doesn't know when to stop talking.
Game Awards are gonna usually go till 3-4 hours, so it's gonna be a marathon. I don't know if we'll do a post show, but we'll definitely probably Friday TNT will just be reacting to whatever news happened or what happened with TNT.
Oh man, guys, can you believe that Sora reveal trailer for Smash? Didn't see that coming.
Wow.
Keep dreaming, Ash.
Yeah,
trying to put that out into the universe. So with my baby in my arms, that means we are at the end of tonight's episode. I want to thank all our Patreon producers for helping us make this show possible. But of course, and with a special update, we have to give an extra special thank you to our executive producers. Those fine folks are Rob, Arman X, Dan and Twistle, Z Patty, Adam O'Sullivan, Floating Mew, Christopher, The D-Pad, Vesmio, OnStar, Kieran Phillips, Benny Yao, my mom, hi mom, Geller, Shiny Turkey, Titus Malvolio, who we finally got the pronunciation of their name, Jake Pelka, Michael Phone, I have a baby floating around me, Mitchell Harry, Jay Acosta, Game Explain, Charles Zaz, Andrew Medeiros, Jonathan Belmare, and new to the executive producer group, Jesse/Kitty Kong Facts. Thank you for joining us. And with that, that's it. The episode's over. I don't have any copy down here, so I'm winging it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to
too good.
It was only a matter of time until one of us slipped up.
Yeah.
Oh, so
wow.
good.
I'm no longer part of the
Steve is fired.
Oh man, too good.
That's it.
I can't see our old channel's name on the screen and not do it. It took 18 episodes, but we finally.
The chat is exploding.
I know, right?
It's so funny.
Hashtag wrong take.
That's the stuff you get. That's the stuff you get if you're part of our Patreon. I might cut this out. Maybe I won't. I don't know.
Nah, leave it. Whatever.
Anyway.
Why not?
Go ahead and please consider supporting us at patreon.com/gvgaming. If you aren't already, for just $1, you can join our exclusive Discord. $5 gets you into the live audience where you can hear me accidentally use the wrong channel name live during the episode. And of course, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. We still love you anyway. But please consider subscribing to our channel. Beyond that, that's it. Have a good night, everybody. Good night and good vibes. We'll see you tomorrow on TNT. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Slippin' Steve. Damn.
That's so good.